What's up, everybody? We are back today for the right in the afternoon. So today is going to be a little bit of a different thing. So I haven't been able to get the tabletop camera that I had working. It just freaks out the system and it doesn't really work very well. So unfortunately, I'm not able to show you as much of the page as I would like. That being the case, we're going to have a discussion about it while I mix this stuff up, so that way you guys can understand and maybe do something fun, and I'll post pictures when it's done. So today we're going to do a talisman of Mars. It is 2:22 at 2 p.m., right? And we're going to do it at 2:22 p.m. as well. Like that's the length and the duration. Now, I'm posting all of this over to the Facebook, so that way we start and we are doing this thing and it is right on track and we are scheduling for it. Now, what are the ingredients that we're using for this right in the afternoon? So I'm using the base ink for the compound of Mars, right? And I'm going to be using the ingredients for the moon as a balancing act for that. So what is it that we're going to do? We're going to make a talisman. Now, this talisman is going to incorporate the element of the sun, of Jupiter, of moon, and Venus around the central sigil of Mars. Why are we doing this, you ask? Well, is because today is the day of Mars. Today is Tuesday, right? At 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, that is the elements of Jupiter, while at 2 a.m. is the elements of the sun. And so calling upon both of these forces in unison today allows for that ingredient, that energy, that celestial force to be brought through. So this is going to be a talisman that bridges both that of the sun and that of Mars and that of Jupiter. So it's a three-part talisman. And so that one is not the ingredient blend that I need. That is not the right one. And so we're going to do Jupiter. There we go. And the symbol of Jupiter and the ingredients of Jupiter. And this stuff is hard as a rock. We're going to add that into there. That way we get everything all liquefied. So we start with that. And so let's start painting, my friends. And so what are we going to do? We're going to use the distillation or the extract from the other day. The decoction, as it were, if we're going to use official terminology. And so I've mixed the decoction with the ink of Mars and the ink of Jupiter in order to be able to do this, because we're at 2 p.m. today, right? Now I just need to add in the ingredients of the sun. And so by doing that, we will get all of our stuff aligned the way that it needs to be. And so that by that alignment, we'll have that which is of heaven and that which is of earth. There we go. The interesting part about it is that when you have inks long enough, they dry out. And by adding water to them, it will reconstitute their nature. And so by having this as a blend that will allow you to reconstitute these things, allows you to reincorporate these things. So we have a solar ingredient, we have the Jupiter ingredient, and we have the Mars ingredient, right? And so this way, it's like watercolors. And everything is done in a black ink today because we are pulling the energy in. It is an absorption. It is a, I'm going to do this in, I don't think I'm going to use the brush. I'm going to use the pen. That way I've got a little bit more control over all of this as we move forward. Let's see if this will work. It's mostly like trying to get these kinds of things done in a very specific time frame. And so by doing that, by completing the multifaceted arrangements and the virtues of the ingredients, we create. And by that creation, we draw in. And so how I draw the talisman is just as important as why I draw the talisman in this case. And so I've got it, everything inside the talisman is aligned to the directions in which I'm doing this. And so facing the camera is west, behind me is east, to my right is north, and to the south is left. So all of the arrangements of these ingredients, or all of the characters within this, are the unification of these principles, right? So they are done in such a way that the book itself, when it's placed in this position facing west, you can draw down these energies into your space, into your ritual magic. What's up, Mike? How's it going, buddy? Good to see you. And so this becomes a very light and gentle ink. It's gray. I need more black. I'm going to use the ink of power from a few weeks ago. So let's see if this shit has not dried out yet. I get fluids I can use. Yes, buddy. Yes. Okay. So we have the ink of power from the other day. This was made from a compound blend that I talked about a few weeks back. And I'm mixing this with the sigil-based ink, and we're going to get a nice, good black ink into this. So all of the ingredients are blended. All of the ingredients are attached. And all of the plant matter is fermenting away inside of this vessel of ink, right? And so that becomes the... Excellent, man. Excellent. After this, it's nap time, right? So we get this done. We do the symbols. And so the letters from the north into center are N, O, and R. Now, these are the letters of the constellation, or not the constellation, the planetary arrangement of that which is Mars and that which is of, in this case, Venus, right? In that order. And those are the flow patterns of energy, NOR, and then it's going to be MPF, moving from Jupiter in the south into the sun, right? And then from the west to center, it's MPF, and then NOR into these directions coming into center. And what arrangements of this there are, we are using as the heaven gate of Mars. So we are drawing down this energy from Mars, from its heaven gate, using Latin characters in order to facilitate the transfer of this energy. So this becomes a language talisman, right? This becomes the holy language, right, that we're using. And so by having all of these things in this way, you know, it's what is the energy of descent? Where is the point of origin? In this case, K is the letter of Mars, right? So that would be the center. What we do as far as the arrangement goes, everything is aiming towards center. Everything comes to center to focus the energy into the talisman. And so as we do that, we overlay the lines of our talisman. And the reason I'm calling this a talisman and not an array or not a gate is because this is focusing a very specific type of power, right? We're using the letters of the sun of Mars, in this case, as OIP. The sun of Jupiter is OIO. The sun of Venus is OIN. And then the sun of the moon is OIR. Actually, scratch that. Sorry. The sun of the moon is OIN. And then the sun of the Jupiter, or the sun of Mars aspect is OIR. Right. And so with these, again, you draw it so that the letters are moving inward towards center. And now, why am I doing that and not Jupiter? Well, I've already got Jupiter mixed into all of these things, but I'm calling forth the light, the focus of these things instead of just the Mars aspect. Now, you're going to ask me, what direction are we pointing the apex of the sigil of Mars? And in this case, I'm doing it from the west. right? Like the apex of this sigil faces west when I'm drawing it, right? And so that way the energy from the east comes into it as it fills the space within, right? And so we have that, and it is designed to receive, right? And so we are aiming at the west because it's already received the energy of the light, received the energy of the sun behind me, right? The energy comes into the earth, the talisman receives, and therefore it opens and activates accordingly, right? And so what are the other designs in this that are getting incorporated? They are the sigils for the Mars of each of the planets that I'm using. Moon, Venus, Jupiter, and the sun as the four arms around, right? The east is the sun, the south is Jupiter, the west is the moon, and north is Venus. The center being the symbol of Mars, right? And so we do this for a couple of different reasons. You can replace what it is that you're doing, and you can modify this accordingly based on your usage, right? But in this, we're calling upon the raw force of the day, right? The solar energy of Mars as it fills the talisman and the space of the talisman, right? Solar energy, masculine energy. We are building this as a masculine force. If I was a woman, that would be a different conversation. I would probably use Jupiter instead of the sun, or I would try to incorporate a different way of arranging this so that way the feminine quality is more enhanced, right? If I wanted to make it a feminine of today instead of the masculine of today. But since it isn't, this is what it is. Do what you need to, how you feel you need to do it. And those are the contact points that you need to remember with this, is that there is a connective line between Jupiter and the moon, Jupiter and this arrangement that links the outside circles together, right? So there's a half circle within the talisman circle itself to bond the element of Jupiter and the moon together, right? In the same way that the element of the sun and Venus is bound together, right? So you're creating a crossways energy, okay? And now this is not to say that a woman couldn't draw this talisman. In fact, I would recommend that they do. But I would also say that the principle of the energy that would be coming from this is not to draw out feminine qualities. It would be to enhance the masculine qualities, right? Whereas if you were to focus on the aspect of Jupiter, it would be the neutral gendered energies. It would be the leadership aspect of it. Whereas this is a more overriding force of high Mars energy, right? And so getting these things into focus, getting the direction of these things going, making a solar talisman of Mars, right? We have the 2 a.m. that occurred already. So the inks and everything that I had prepared were already subject to these things. And now we're pulling it together as a light, as a focus, right? And so do that with your spells. Think about the application of this thing. What would I be able to put on this that will allow me to use the energy of today in order to be able to fulfill the task which I have it set? So if I have something that needs to have insight, if I have something that needs to have development, right? I said this earlier. I have these things that need these arrangements, these behaviors, right? And we're going to invite these into our work. What then would the outcome be? Well, in this case, it would be the unification of these celestial energies. And then I could put the dried herbs and things like that on this if I'm going to stimulate the Mars and solar qualities of it. So if I'm going to stimulate the masculine aspects of Mars, that's why I would do this. Can I incorporate because it is 2 p.m., the Venus aspect or the Jupiter aspect of it? Oh, I absolutely could. And then that would be the Mars of Jupiter. And what would those yield, right? That would yield energies of leadership, of rulership, dominion, right? And that is the kind of application that I wasn't focusing on with this. This is a thing of power, right? This is a spell of power in order to be able to pull power from the day. And so as you go through and you draw these out, you've got to think to yourself, okay, well, what is the kind of power that I want to see come from this? What is the kind of authority? What is the kind of light that I want to bring into this? Right? And so using the English letters, or the Latin characters, as it were, for each one of those forces, there are the yin states and the yang states of each of those letters arranged around the central wheel, right? So like I said, north is that way. East is behind me. So east is the primary direction. And from the east, this gets filled. So you don't face it to fill it. You face you're assuming that it's already been filled. You're assuming it's already got the fullness that you're looking for. And so that's why we face west. If you were looking to project something from Mars into the celestial heavens, right, you would be facing east. So this book would be drawn backwards. So it just depends on your usage of it. What is your use? Why is your use? What can you do with it? Well, you can put a crystal on it. You can invoke the spirit into the crystal. Evoke the spirit into the crystal, right? It's the conjuration. Conjuration just means to create. And so as you create, you have that abracadabra moment where he who creates, or I say what I create, right? And so it is through that principle that your named and your unnamed spirits and energies and such like that come to fruition, come to form, come to be created by the talismata that you're developing, right? And so you don't need chaos magic. We're not creating these symbols out of nothing. They are the name letters associated in Latin with the planetary forces drawn on the Pythagorean number squares of those planets. So what does that mean? That means for the planet Mars and its numbers, there are fixed arrangements of those numbers, right? And so for the ones that I've selected are the classical magical arrangements, where all of the numbers across and down match the pattern that is required. Everything matches on those squares, so that way they all add back into the number of Mars, and the number of Mars is 5. So it is the number of man. So it is the number of the physical world. And so by being ordered under the physical world, we require light as a point of origin. It is one of the fundamental requirements. Light, order, the watery aspect of it, and the earthy aspect of it. And so that's why the Venus, the body, right? The moon, the blood, the mind, the fire, the Jupiter, right? And so all of these coming together to benefit and to balance. And so I call forth from the mountains of the east. I call forth from the mountains of the west. I call forth from the mountains of the north and from the mountains of the south. Those sacred places, named and unnamed, that this creature of earth shall serve in the ways as I require. Right? So one of the things that I am going to add to this are the letters of Jupiter around the outer edge. So the Jupiter of Mars, the Jupiter of the Sun, and the Jupiter of Venus accordingly. Because I want to just make sure that when I'm incorporating into this, it's got that balance of time aspect to it too. And that's one of the neat things about Jupiter, is that it does rule for time, right? So the Jupiter of the Sun would be NEO, right? And E. O. As the Son of Jupiter, NEO, right? And then Jupiter into Jupiter, NEN. And then the moon, NER. And then of Venus, NEP. And so there we have a talisman that unifies the sun and the Mars and a Jupiter aspect. At 2:22 p.m., the symbol is finished. So everything is done. I'll take a picture of it. It'll be in the Facebook group, so please join me over there. I look forward to seeing what you guys are up to today. I hope you had a very fantastic afternoon, and stay safe today, my friends. And remember, don't be evil with this sort of thing. The next best use of this would come whenever you want to channel the energy of today, whenever you want to channel that higher celestial energy that unifies the three principles of Jupiter, the sun, and Mars. So I will chat with you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for the Spell of the Day challenge. Stay safe, my friends. Have fun. And bye for now.